Why, hi there. I'm Ron Juckin, and I'm joined by the Commissioner, Chief Bottle Washer, and Laundry Expert Dave Gardner from the Eastern Massachusetts Roller Hockey League. And welcome to This Week on the E. Dave is not feeling all that great, but he's not feeling bad enough to not go through the sponsors. Who are we thanking this week, Dave?
All right, let me share my screen here, Ron, as we get used to this new setup. So once again, we have our sponsors up on our main page here, and they are Paramount Wealth Strategies, Everett Bank, Alpha Omega Hobbies down there in Quincy, Bates Insurance, One Call Ventilation, Aces Games and More, the IBW Electrical Union, and East Boston Savings Bank. Those are our 8 sponsors, and we have jerseys on order, and we hope to have them in hand in just a few more weeks, and we'll be incorporating those into our new seasons.
All right. We actually have a special guest today, Stephen Mills, who is the captain and goaltender for the Golden Knights on the recently finished Saturday League. How you doing, Stephen?
Mills, are you there?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. Hey, guys. Yeah, it's froze up on me a couple of times. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me a bit part of this. Really enjoy having the show now, and thank you so much.
All right, before we talk to Stephen, let's go through what happened on a very busy Saturday morning. The early semifinal saw the Oilers come down from 6-5 back to beat the Devils, the top team in the league, 7-6. It took almost 5 minutes, but Milne scored on a top corner shot off a rebound off the backboards, Holy Arena football back, man, to put the Oilers into the finals. And then they faced the Sabres, who won their semifinal 9-5. It was not a great effort for the Bruins, and the Sabres took the lead 7-3 in the second period and never looked back. But the Oilers won the final 11-4, the number 4 seed. See, dreams can come true. It was 5-3 after 2, and the Sabres just really couldn't do too much, and the Oilers scored 6 times in the third to skate to the championship. So congratulations to them. They and all their people get their names on Dave's trophy. And so, Stephen, first of all, congratulations to Oilers. Tell us a bit about what it's like to play the 7 o'clock game on a Saturday morning.
So it worked out really well for me. I get the opportunity to come in and, play early. I've got a family, a lot of the guys on the team, they either have family commitments or, reasons why they need that 7 a.m. game. Plus, I kind of like just being able to get in early. It gives me an opportunity if I end up subbing in an extra game or two. It gives me a chance to really, get going quick. I'm an early riser anyways. But yeah, we moved to 7 a.m. because the later games are starting to get tough to do as well. So, you kind of got that balance of late versus early. We've had guys that consistently want to play this 7 a.m. slot. I've actually been very lucky from week to week. I don't have to deal with many subs. My team is pretty reliable normally. So, yeah, it's worked out really well. I actually, unfortunately, this season had to miss my playoff game due to pneumonia, which, ended up with the Devils beating us in overtime the week before. But it works out well. I really love being a part of that 7 a.m. team.
Maybe you can let people know what duties there are in being a captain.
Okay, so yeah, being a captain, it's an interesting job. It's myself and Steven DePrato are the 2 goalie captains. Gets a little interesting when you're in that trying to move people around, trying to help out with playing time and stuff. But basically, you're at the draft, you're helping out. Our drafts are a fantasy draft per se. You don't really get to say, yep, I'm going to draft exactly who I want. There's some package deals. There's some stuff, friends want to play together. Or as I said, in my case, I've got guys that really have to play that 7 a.m. slot for whatever reason. And so it makes the draft much more complicated. Dave does a great job trying to keep things in line and trying to keep it from being too overly complicated or too overly troublesome. But, we end up with a situation where, you sit down, you kind of go through as a captain, you're the week to week, people can't play or people might be able to play or, how do you find subs? For me, I'm lucky. I'm the goalie. So I don't have to look for a goalie sub. So when Dave puts out the message on a Wednesday to the captains, do we all have goalies? I normally have a pretty quick answer. So, but for other teams, you've got to see, I'm missing my goalie, who's the comparable goalie, or I'm missing my third round player, who's my comparable player. So there's that captain's responsibility there. Then outside of that, you're kind of trying to make the lines, trying to make things run as smoothly as they can, get guys on the rink as much as you can.
Now, I looked at your stats before we started, and this was actually a fairly good season for you. Maybe not in the win-loss column, but your goals against average improved to nearly 6, which is phenomenal for this league. What are you doing? What would you attribute the improvement in your play in? This experience or what?
So experience is a big part of it. I mean, when I came in the league a few years ago, I actually came in after my mom passed away. And I wanted to get back to hockey. Hockey's my first love. And, it was really trying to get myself back into shape, getting used to playing with the ball, which is an absolute nightmare at times. That thing curves, turns. You've got guys like Craig Murray, Higgy that they take shots that start on the right-hand side of the goal, and by the time they're at me, they're in the left-hand side of the goal, and I have no idea how it got from point A to point B. So there's an adjustment there. It's kind of getting yourself familiar with the guys, trying to make sure that you've got the right mix of stay-at-home defensemen versus, guys that rush the ball, guys that, move around. So I'm kind of very mindful of saying, I've got guys like Mike Gaff, I've got guys like Brendan Collins who really do a good job of staying at home and trying to make sure I'm not facing a breakaway every single time. And, physically, I've just been trying to get myself in better shape, get myself some flexibility, and, just try to make some improvements in general to my game.
Hey, Ron, one thing I will add to what Steven said is talking about the ball curving is there's a lot of goals that are scored from half court. And while we might laugh at that, it has come acceptable for how much the ball will curve and how you can line up for a shot. And again, it's going to spin away from you. So when a lot of players do score from center ice from time to time, it's not really a thing of shame for the goaltenders. We've come to accept that this ball moves, and that's going to happen almost on a regular basis.
And from what I've seen of the statistics too, the save percentages are, considering the size of the court and the equipment and what you're playing with, they're actually pretty high. I mean, 75-80% isn't unreasonable, considering the ball is pretty much in play all the time and blah 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 blah. Steven, did you play a goalie in high school, or when you played ice hockey, was that your position, or what? Or did you do there?
Yeah, I've always been a goalie. They tried to put me out as a wing for a while. It was more of a skating speed stuff. I've always been that dirty position type player. I played baseball for years as a catcher and a first baseman, basketball as a power forward, football as a tight end and a linebacker. I just enjoy that dirty position where I'm getting banged around and whatever else. I mean, I like to be in that kind of spot. And at the same time, I like being a captain. I try to be a leader in everything I do. And, I really do believe that leading from the back, that mentality of, a lot of guys, the goal goes in, they're looking at the goalie. Well, as a captain, if the goal goes in, I'm the one I've got to look at, right? I try very hard. I don't like to yell at defensemen. I don't like to yell at players. I don't like to say, well, you were in my way. It's a lot of times I'm just saying, hey, I couldn't see that, or, whatever else. I try very hard not to be super aggressive back there with my own teammates. I mean, I'm a little more aggressive with other players, as we've noticed. I think this season I also had my highest penalty totals of the
Billy Smith. How'd you get 2 penalties?
One, I kind of got in a little bit of a slashing match in front of the net. And the other one of my former fellow goaltenders, Jeremy Russell, fell a little light to a slight push to his back. I told him he really needs to work on staying on his skates.
That's his Steven story, and he's sticking to it.
Yeah. He really, I can't help him if he can't stay on his skates. I'm doing the best I can. If I understand he's new to being on the rollerblades, he's used to being in the net, but he's got to work on staying on his skates.
And like I said, that's your story, and you're sticking to it. All right. Now that the two of you are here, you talked a little bit about the draft. Obviously, we're not talking a straight draft like a kickball, and the last person that gets picked is the one that feels the worst. It sounds like is it like an auction? I mean, you two, how, the draft is tonight for the Saturday leagues for this season. Walk us through that. Start with Dave.
So a lot of it is, you're Dave does a great job. He sets up the list. He sets up, who's involved in the league, which is always till the 11th hour, making sure that he's got who he needs, making sure he's got all the names. I mean, we've gone to drafts where there's been 6 open spots, and Dave is literally at the draft table saying, "Oh, this guy just joined, or this guy just left, or whatever else." So Dave does a great job of trying to manage all that. And then we've got on top of that package deals, as I said. You've got guys that, sometimes it's as simple as 1 or 2 guys that want to play together, or we've had times where there's been 4 or 5 guys that want to play together that literally the presence of that package basically makes your whole team. So, and then you've got my case where I'm basically going to go into the draft tonight, maybe not with my team so much picked, but at least with a pretty good feel of, these are the 9 guys, including me, that wanted the 7 a.m. game. So you've got kind of that interesting mix there. And you've got guys like Jeremy Sosha, who we're still not sure if he's ever made an actual pick. Every time Jeremy makes a pick, we tend to change it on him. So we're not sure if he's ever made his own selection. We love the fact he still comes. We love the fact that he still tries to be engaged. But at the end of the day, we pick his team.
Well, what happens a lot too, Ron and Steve, well, Steve knows, is we have a lot of we work around people's schedules and family issues, and we have a couple of new guys that joined up last season, and they want to play together. So we go into this thing, and it's like, okay, Bill and Tom need to be on the same team, and Brian and Joe need to be on the same team, and things like that. So sometimes we go in and we start saying, okay, let's start putting guys on teams that need to play together. And then after that, after we work around people's schedules and requests and playing with friends and relatives, then kind of what's left, we actually fill in, is kind of how it goes. So once in a while, we get a season where we don't have too many of those, and we can just say, let's just pick and go right down the list like you're doing a fantasy draft. But a lot of times, it's guys are slotted in on teams already, and we just fill in the holes. And we try to walk away from the table with even teams, or as close to even as we can get, because the last thing you want to do is to start making trades during the season because one team is destroying somebody or one team is getting destroyed is the goal.
So you basically have like a point value, even if you don't write it down, to make sure that teams have equal parity.
Well, we know who the better players are and who the medium players are and who the newer players are. And, we know who leads the team in scoring and the whole bit like that. So we try to get everybody, a good forward, a good defenseman. And we try to also give somebody, I hate to say a bad player, but I guess, someone that maybe doesn't score as much as somebody else. So we try to really distribute the talent, both good and bad, in both leagues.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're also trying to figure out, to Dave's point, when you've got people moving around, moving schedules, et cetera, we've got X amount of guys that are referees. You've got certain guys that they are willing to referee week to week to week. So Dave has to kind of make sure that, my team, for example, that plays at 7 a.m., you don't want me to have 4 of the 15 refs that we have, because they can only referee the 8 o'clock game after mine. So you don't want me to end up sitting there with, all these people that are willing to ref, and then have Dave having to either ask people to stay for the 8 and the 9, or, end up with a situation like that.
And it obviously works for you guys because these leagues are running into, 20 years.
Yeah, I can only think of, honestly, in my time in the league, I've had maybe 1 or 2 seasons that come to mind where my team was legitimately just not good. Where, we're week to week to week, it was a struggle to be there, or week to week to week, I had guys that were bailing. I can think of one summer season where every single week I was finding 4 or 5 subs. And, that was a tough season. There are other seasons where, even one of the seasons that I can think of, that I think we only had 2 wins on the season, every single game was a 1-goal or a 2-goal game. It just wasn't breaking for us. Either I was a little off, or we just weren't getting the puck luck, and, it just is what it is. And then on the flip side, I had one season, the season I won the championship, that if you looked on paper, I think we had 1 loss. But every single solitary game was a 1-goal game or a 2-goal game.
Well, that
We
seems
weren't
yeah.
blowing,
That's always very good to have games that are close, and sometimes you flip heads, and sometimes you flip tails.
Absolutely. I mean, to Dave's point, when he starts to see things that are really bad, except for the one season that he let me struggle all season long. But aside from that, he does a good job of saying, hey, we need to do this. We need to move this guy here, move that guy there. I've been on 2 or 3, 4 teams that, hey, we have to make a change, or we got to move, or, Dave is really responsive to, hey, this guy's not showing up. Could you please just either get a hold of him and find out if he's going to stay, or, move him around as necessary.
So how many teams, Dave, are playing this Saturday or in the Saturday League this spring?
We're going into tonight with 12 teams once again, and actually we have a waiting list to get in. So I got some tough decisions to make as who's coming in and who's going to have to, the guys that aren't going to get in, we're probably going to have 4 or 5 guys that are looking to play that we won't be able to put on the team full-time right away. So what I'm hoping to do is on Saturday morning, we usually have a lot more openings of guys that, hey, I'm out this week for work or I'm vacation or traveling. So we'll use those openings to bring in the 4 or 5 guys that we cannot get on a team. We're going to have them skating with us as a fill-in role until something does open up. And as Saturdays go, especially when we have 11 or 12 teams, we never start and finish the entire season with all the skaters. Something happens somewhere along the way that someone has to drop out, and that's when we fill in the guys. So I always encourage guys that don't get on teams right away is that when we contact you to fill in, show up for that game. Because if you show up for that game, A, you're skating with us, and B, we know you want to play. And those are the guys that get first dibs when we have an opening, are the guys that keep showing up week to week and playing on different teams until we can lock you in.
And so for those who may watch this and go, well, how long does this league go? How long does this league go?
Well, it's a year-round league, but we divide it up into seasons.
Right. How long does the season go? I meant that's the question I meant to ask.
The Tuesday league is locked in because we only have 8 teams because we only have 4 hours to play in a Tuesday night. So that is a 16-week season, and then we start up new. So Tuesday is 16 weeks, 16 weeks, 16 weeks. Saturdays are a little bit different because teams fluctuate between 10 and 12 usually. And at this time of year, we try to end, which is this winter spring season, we try to end it in May. Okay, because if we end the season in April, no one's going to sign up to play the next season because it's going to run into the summer. Okay,
right.
So we'll run this season. So instead of the normal 12 or 13 weeks for Saturday, we might bump it to 14 or 15 so we can get it into May, and then we can start the summer season in June and July. Which typically players will not play in. We'll have less teams in the summer. So the goal is to try to get this season as close to summer as we can. Then we'll have the shorter summer season with fewer guys and get back into it in the fall. So we'll be sitting down tonight with the captains going over that as far as how many weeks this one's going to be. But we're going to try to end it in May. And I did get a text from goaltender Ryan Hayes last night, who had a good suggestion that says we ought to try to push this season as long as we can, because May being the anniversary of 20 years, it'd be kind of cool to have a big 20th anniversary party with the finals like we did for the 15th year.
That sounds pretty awesome. What a good suggestion that is.
Yeah, for the 15th year, what we did is we actually had we played the finals, and then we had an open skate all day long is kind of what we did. And so everybody showed up, and we had a packed house for the finals. It was really cool because everybody was hanging around for the 15th and waiting to skate and waiting for the cookout. So we had a pretty good crowd for that one there. In fact, I was in it, and we lost by a goal. And actually it was Ryan Hayes who won the championship that day. But we had a great finals game that day and a great crowd. And that's a really good suggestion to do that again this May.
That's magnificent.
That was actually my first season.
Oh, wow.
My first season was that 15th year season.
That's awesome. And so I guess now is as good as time as any to think of your favorite Nicolas Cage movie, because this year's teams will be named after Nicolas Cage movies.
Yes, it is. What do you think, Steve?
I think that's fine. I mean, it's going to mean I'm going to have to go figure out what Nicolas Cage movie I've actually watched.
Face Off.
So I'm going to have to work on that. I was thinking Face Off. Yeah, I was thinking Face Off. Fellow captains, I'm taking Face Off. Just to let you guys know, it's the only one I know of. So I have just taken that one, Dave. So
okay,
we can keep that going in.
Just to be clear, there's no such thing as a bad Nicolas Cage movie.
Just
there's a lot of guys that might argue with you on that one, but I'm going to leave that one alone. I think actually, ironically enough, I'm sitting here at work. I want to say that we've had a conversation between me and one of the other engineers about how much he despises Nicolas Cage movies. So I'm going to have to go. Actually, would I go get lunch? I'm going to have to go ask him that question.
All right, we'll let you go after this. What do you enjoy most about being in the EMRHL?
It's really like a family. I've gone through some stuff over the last few years. I've had some losses. I've had a birth. My little girl has been up to watch games. And through it all I've heard is, Millsy, how you doing? Every time I come up there, everyone is so wonderful, great. I mean, I get guys that reach out to me, just to see how I'm doing if they haven't seen me in a while. I love the competitiveness. I really do think that when this league is running and, we've got some of the guys back, that it is really competitive. We can get, some of these tournaments that I've played in, when some of the guys from Tuesday come down and whatever else, there are some really competitive guys. And at the same time, every week, very rarely do you see a major problem. They're handled quickly. You hear many other leagues. I played in one other league before I joined the E and one other league since I've joined, and both of them were just marred by fights. Nothing but fights, just back and forth, and you don't get that up here. You get guys that, we get competitive. There's some stuff that gets said. There's some stuff, people get thrown down, people get, broken up, but it doesn't last past that.
Well, it's funny you say that because even last night, Tuesday night, we were playing, and it was just fun watching all the guys. They're having fun out there. In fact, there was a couple guys, Joey Marino and Nick Bertocci. They went in the corner, and they were like roughhousing in the corner. And immediately I was like, oh, man, I was refereeing, so I got to make sure this doesn't get out of hand. And they were just laughing as they were mixing up in the corner. And then coming up the court, I think Courtney Brown grabbed somebody's stick. Should have been a penalty for holding, but they were fooling around, having a good time. So as competitive as it gets, guys, I think generally have a good time out there and laugh and joke. And I think that's where the draft league does that, is because you're not always playing with or against the same guys. Sometimes you play with them and sometimes you play against them. And I actually enjoyed last night seeing everybody having a good time on the court.
Yeah, I agree. It really is. It's a lot of fun. I really look forward to my Saturdays. I was legitimately upset to the point where I came to still be a captain in the game that I missed due to pneumonia. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there for the guys. I wanted to try to lead the best I could. And, I wanted to be there. And that's how I feel every Saturday. I want to be there. Yeah. The other thing I really love is, my little girl every single week asks my wife, can I come to the game? Can I come to the game? Can I come to the game? And when she's a few years older, I will have no problem bringing her up to actually watch. Jason Ricci on my team, his son is routinely there. The guys feel like they can bring their kids, bring their wives, and actually watch a game.
Yeah, and what was funny about that playoff game, you showed up. I was surprised you showed up because you were legitimately sick. You did go on the bench, even though you weren't playing. And you and a guy on the other team, Dennis Bertocci, you guys were yarring so bad during the game. And it's like, I couldn't believe the stuff I was hearing. And then the game ends, and I look, and you two are sitting on the sidelines talking. I'm like, are you guys okay? And you're like, and you guys just started laughing. And I was like, you guys are just ready to kill each other 5 minutes ago. Like, yeah, that was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. I mean, it was literally, I love Dennis. We've had some battles out there. I've had some battles with some guys in this league, and Dennis I was yelling at him that he couldn't keep his shin pad on. I was wondering why, Velcro was getting really hard for Dennis Bertocci. So I mean, from that bench, I'll tell you right now, it was really tough. I told Steve DePrato, who's in the net, if I was in net right then, I would have lost my mind. I would have been screaming, yelling. But at the same time, I'll walk through that handshake line and I'll shake you and give you a hug. I mean, it's the way it is. I've had guys, Dave Kruger and I have gotten into it on the rink, and Dave and I talk nonstop. He has literally crashed through me in the net, and within 10 minutes, we're going through a handshake line, giving each other a hug. I mean, it's just that kind of camaraderie. You can't get it anywhere else.
Incredible. I have to go in about 5 minutes because she who must be obeyed has to go into work. So I'm going to say thank you, Stephen. for all your
thank you so
insight.
much. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to it and hope to join you again soon.
We hope to have you back soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dave, we're going to go through the Tuesday games really quick, and then we have about a couple minutes after that to chat. Let's start with the early game, the 6:30 game. Over the top, 5, stop or my mom will shoot. 4, whoever Grasso is, his first shot of the season went in. That's the big one there. Then Rocky beat Cliffhanger 7-4. Cliffhangers are now 1-1-1, and Lucas reportedly, I'd love to write your copy, Dave, had all 4 goals for the Cliffhanger, and Dave is still trying to confirm that. Rocky got a boatload of goals from CJ as he got bumped to the first line this week with only 5 players showing up on the. How cold was it down there in Saugus?
Well, the thing was, it's been 3 or 4 degrees for a couple of days. So what happens is that old rink just gets frozen. And it did warm up to about 18 to 20 degrees last night, but everything was just frozen when we got there. And only a handful of people hung out to watch after their game last night. So it wasn't so much the outside temperature, it's just everything has just been frozen from the single digits for the last 48 hours.
It was the Rockies' first win of the year. Yo, Adrian, they did it. All right, 8:30 game saw the 2-0-2 teams going at it, and the Expendables beat the Lords of Flatbush 7-5. So the Lords of Flatbush fall to 0-3. We say sorry to Jay Surratt, who had a tough night on defense, and the loss. And the last game watched by kind of friends and family, Tango and Cash down Rambo 11-7. Dave Barkley with a pair, and like I said, I don't write this copy. Only fell down twice to lead Tango and Cash, and that's your Tuesday report.
It is
1-1-1 now, right?
Yeah, I just want to show the Tuesday standings here real quick. I'm
Go right
gonna
ahead.
pull those up on the screen. So you can see, over the top, they won over Stopper. My mom will shoot. So that's their 3-0. Tango and Cash, they got their first win last night. They had 2 ties, actually, Ron, going into last night. And then we have Rocky and Cliffhanger 1-1-1. That's kind of odd after 3 games. And then the Expendables and Rambo at 1-2. And then lastly, Lords of Flatbush at 0-3. But you can see that we got one team at 3-0, one team at 0-3, everybody else in the middle. And that's kind of how a draft league works, is that, we got 3-0 and 0-3, but we got a big log jam in the middle,
Yeah, but there's only 6 goals difference between Lords of Flatbush and the top scoring team. So,
yep.
All right. What else did you want to touch upon this week?
Yeah, before we wrap up, I do want to talk a little bit about your channel and some of the things that I'm hoping to do once I get my voice back. And that's some of the retro sports gaming that we're doing, or the strategy gaming. So your channel is Retro Sports Network, right?
Yes, it is.
Now, is that all one word or 2 words? How is
That's
that?
all one word.
Okay, all one word, Retro Sports Network. So if you want to find Ron Juckett on there, go to Retro Sports Network. And I found out just since finding it, there's a whole community of people that do these old computer strategy games, and they play them out. And it's nothing like Madden or NHL 19. They're computer strategy games where last night we were watching Beatles play the 78 Yankees versus the 2004 Red Sox. And it was fun watching Reggie Jackson, Mickey Rivers, and Curt Schilling play against each other. And so if you're into nostalgia and you enjoy some of these old teams, check out Ron's channel. And I'm hoping to do some too. I did a 78 Yankees versus 2004 Red Sox myself. And it's very different than the games from today. But if you enjoy that nostalgia, check out Ron's channel. He does, Ron, you do everything. You do football, baseball, hockey, basketball, boxing,
different sports, and I'm about to do a 9th because I made the mistake of watching someone else's soccer game last night.
Yeah, Al, Red Sox fan, did a soccer game last night. I was watching that late last night too, and in fact, I look forward to it at night. I'll get done. I'll be playing Assassin's Creed. And I'll have my iPad open. I'll watch you guys, and I'll go to bed. And I'll have my phone. And half the fun is sitting in the chat movies, the chat. Sitting in the chat and talking. You talk to other people in the chat and just, how's your day going while you're watching the game. It's a good place to hang out. And it's a good little community there. So
it's a very relaxed community, and you can pretty much whatever era you want, even if you don't necessarily like the era or the sport, you're going to run into a friendly face and have a conversation. And we
Yep.
just kind of let that there. I mean, it's kind of like going into, if you were different in like a giant jazz club. Doesn't really matter what instruments or what we're playing. It's just a matter of getting together and having some fun. And right now I'm doing a 1982 baseball season. In fact, we got a game tonight while you're doing your draft. And of course, Dave was a big part of our recently completed 1978 NFL season. So it is a lot of fun, and it's a community that's growing. And if we can do that in 10 years, if we can be half as successful as what you've done with this league, that's going to say something right there.
Yep. So definitely check out Ron's channel, Retro Sports Network, all one word, on YouTube. And get involved in that community. Just come and hang out, and it's fun. It's probably mostly for the older guys, because if you grew up with the 78 season or the 82 season, you're going to recognize a lot of the names, and it is fun seeing how the computer plays things out. But anyway, just figured I'd throw that out there. So Ron, you're on tonight at around 7 o'clock. So yeah, we'll be having our draft. Yeah, so tonight is the draft for the new Saturday League. So tonight around 7:30, we're getting together on Route 1. And we're going to pick those teams. Stephen Mills, who joined us, will be there tonight as well. And hopefully we'll walk out of there with 12 even teams. And again, if you're watching this and you didn't get in the draft, don't despair. We do have openings to fill in. We will have you up skating with us and try to get you in full time as soon as we can as we do this Saturday spring season.
All right. Well, that will about do it for the show this week. This week in the E. We are with you every Wednesday live at noon. Hopefully we'll have another player to interview, and we'll go through both the opening week and the Saturday League. I can't wait to see what names you come up with for Nicolas Cage movies. I think your next season should be Heroes of the Montreal Canadiens. That's going to go real well in a Boston, in a Boston area league. But we'll go through the first week of that season and whatever going on Tuesday and whatever else that Dave wants to talk about. So join us live next Wednesday, the 30th at noon. And so for Dave Gardner, who hopefully will feel better and talk better next week, I'm Ron Juckett. We'll talk to you. Hit that like and subscribe there. I forgot I'm on YouTube. And then we'll talk to you the next time.